I bought this place for the kind of quiet that hums instead of interrupts. A 2-story lakefront home on Cedar Lane in Pinebrook Springs, Colorado, U.S. It sat just outside municipal HOA boundaries, but close enough for assumptions to drift my way like pollen. Closing day ran through the Office of First American Title. Transfer was logged properly in the county recorder system. No special access rights to shared property were ever attached. The garage, my garage, was a private annex for walls that answer the statute, not sentiment. If you were standing here, watching this footage with me, you'd smell sawdust from my weekend shelves, engine oil from the riding mower, and cold concrete sweating under night-stored air. Normal smells. Innocent smells. The kind that lull you into thinking infrastructure is safe from personalities. Then came the day the camera got interesting. I drove home at 6:17 p.m. dashcam rolling. Not for cinematic ambition, but because I like timestamps. Engineers romanticize precision the way poets romanticize sunsets. The street was clear, which meant nothing unusual until the driveway frame advanced. The garage door was open. That was wrong. I never leave it open. Inside, tail lights glowed red against the back wall. A silver SUV backed into my space with the casual geometry of someone aligning furniture rather than committing trespass. The engine cut, lights linger, and out stepped Karen Whitlock, carrying a clipboard like it was constitutional scripture. I didn't shout. I didn't even swear. I just stared the way a man stares when he's trying to determine which branch of reality he just merged into. The worst offenses are always packaged politely. I stepped out of my truck, registered in my name, filed under state property logs managed by the Colorado Secretary of State, and walked toward her in silence thick enough to record. She spotted me, smiled first, then stiffened. "Karen, oh, good, you're home. We need to discuss your garage usage." "Me? You're in it." Her eyebrows arched into a front. The kind that assumes illegality must always require theatrics. Wrong assumption again. "Karen, it's clearly not being used correctly." "Me, it's clearly being used by someone not on the deed." The smile evaporated. I could practically hear a dial tone where diplomacy used to stand. I'd already memorized my deed file. It wasn't long, but it was sovereign. Marcus Hale, 37, private homeowner. No amendments. No shared clauses. No community garage privileges recorded because there had never been a community garage to begin with. HOAs are like gravity. Most people think they apply everywhere until someone reads the local physics. And in Colorado, the physics are literal. The legal reality here is governed by private property annex jurisdiction and recorded boundary legitimacy under statutes like CRS 38-30-101 for property recording conditions. But she had parked first. Law would come later. So I did the next logical thing. I checked the cameras, not the emotional cameras. The literal cameras mounted in the corner of the garage, system installed and serviced by Vivint Home Security. I walked into house, laptop already open to the DVR feed backed by intrusion timestamps stored in Arvada, regional zoning frames, and unaltered recordings. The moment I clicked playback, time slowed into sequence. There was Karen at 11:42 a.m., waving down HOA board members, hands punctuating the air as she instructed them to open my garage. Not break, not enter. Access. She opened it with intervention assistance from local subdivision members, not statutory access rights via county recording, which was illegal because it lacked county parcel filing or notarized easement. My lawyer, months later, would get very familiar with this clip. Right now, it was just me, staring at history being mislabeled community asset. I whispered to the camera in my head, a moral reflection that had nothing to do with anger and everything to do with leverage. It's not the intrusion that changes your life. It's the clarity. Playback continued. The HOA, newly announced but never legally binding for me, had tried to initiate neighbor infrastructure inspection by ballot of neighbors, not owners of contested infrastructure, which is not a valid statutory pathway under Colorado land parcel compliance, which would fall under adverse possession or HOA domain expansions only if recorded. But hers was not recorded. And then came the close and mechanical moment when the SUV drove in. She guided it inside by hand signal. No request for approval. No legal citation pre-filed. No shared covenant breach. No notary validation. No record reference number. Just a woman who felt like policy could manifest from velocity alone. This is the tension of real property law. HOAs enforce. Aesthetics. Shared spaces. Noise. Trash. Bored stories. They do not enforce. Land ownership. Boundary claim overrides. Private garage access. Statutory coercion without record. The law isn't about emotion. It's about precedence. County recorder, HOA board, neighborhood assumption. I printed the deed from my drawer. I held the spare key, not to open a garage, but to prove lock origin legitimacy, which later would become my evidence of self-authority to close and secure annex private infrastructure. I returned to Karen. The door was already closed by then, locked behind her vehicle. Manual locking is legal. Digital intimidation is not. She noticed the click of the lock when she tried the handle. Karen, did you just lock the garage? Me? Yes. Karen, you can't lock HOA community property. Me, calm, slow, show me the recording number. Silence. First the disbelief type, then the fear type. The entire conversation rhythm flipped. Karen, softer, I'll have to verify. Me, then verify before parking. The lake behind me looked peaceful, oblivious to jurisdiction debates. Calm on the surface, quietly weaponized beneath. My tone stayed level. Hers didn't climb. It shrank. No threats landed that day because there was nothing to file. And nothing filed isn't a claim. It's fan fiction. She walked away mid-sentence, mid-authority, mid-arrogance. I closed a chapter to the camera. Not here, not in court, not in a complaint window, but in narrative resolve. That's when I decided to document everything. I sat at the dining table with a single folder open. The garage incident, labeled by date, not drama. The house was in Silver Marina Falls, Colorado, U.S. A gated subdivision built near waterlines that sparkle by design, monitored lightly by ArcGIS Online, but never supposed to map into my garage. The HOA was young, loud in ambition, ignored by statute, but they relied on social gravity. That makes confidence contagious until challenged. The first pressure hit through bureaucracy-shaped theater, a citation. The notice was drafted in pastel language and mailed via certified stamp handled by United States Postal Service. No screaming, no exclamation points. Threats don't need volume. They need stationery. Notice number 1. Unauthorized storage of mechanical equipment. Fine assessed $600. Notice number 2. Improper use of private infrastructure deemed community adjacent. Review board scheduled. I didn't waste time digesting her words. I audited their validity. Colorado real property enforcement places ownership adjudication in county, recording precedents like title recording code. The law is calm until you're not protected by it. I requested filing verification at Arapahoe County clerk and recorder. My findings were unflinching. No easement of access in subdivision history. No garage rights amendment recorded. No notarized community clause approving shared structure claims. No lien ever attempted before the parking incident. No legal instrument granting HOA dominion over private annexes, which means the citations were toothless, legally decorative, but Karen was relentless in assumption, so the HOA board intensified process noise. Next citation arrived with official glare. $1,200 fine. Potential lien. Mandatory review. Garage compliance breach. Lien threats require statutory pathway. Covenant breach. Parcel claim overlap or occupation history recorded and notarized. None existed. But intimidation exists better when mailed with confidence. I called the HOA office line at 9:03 a.m. on speaker. HOA admin, Lake Community Association, filing clerk Morris speaking. Me, I received citations alleging garage breach. I need the recording number supporting jurisdiction. Morris, ma'am, Karen handles those. Connect you? Me, Yes. Click. Mechanical silence. Then Karen's voice flooded in. Karen, you're aware the garage is reviewed as adjacency infrastructure, correct? Me. I'm aware you parked a vehicle inside it without documented rights. Karen, you escalated this. Liens will follow. Me. They need statute and a record reference. You have neither. Her breath caught, mic subtle, camera-worthy but not melodramatic. Karen colder. You think paperwork scares me? Me. It instructs you. Authority travels through filing timestamps, not tone. Karen, sharp exhale. This conversation is done. She hung up. I began preparing for a quiet escalation of my own. I filed a citation appeal under compliance procedures managed by county recorder review, evidence submission, ownership verification, and lack of jurisdiction rebuttal, which is why engineers file exhibits like evidence notarizations instead of emotions. My attorney was Elena Brooks, 42, real estate litigation specialist from Davis, Graham & Stubbs, LLP. I brought the folder. She brought law. We had only 9 minutes before conference began. Elena, they assess fines without jurisdiction, will challenge under quiet title and non-filed adjacency clause. Me, no statutory pathway exists for garage claims, right? Elena, calm nod. Then they're filing a motion. We file law. We prepared a quiet infrastructure ownership framework, verifying that no HOA authority can override private annex ownership unless county recorded or contract notarized. Elena advised compassionless precision. Elena, HOAs weaponize fees. Courts weaponize evidence. Pick yours. Me, evidence. Elena, bring surveillance footage too. Judges love timestamps. So I extracted the security feed from Nestcam IQ Indoor. Clear video. Clear trespass. No exaggeration. Documentary clarity. But Karen was preparing pressure of her own. She used county law enforcement's shape without its authority. She called a compliance escalation through Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office alleging threatening behavior, denying community-adjacent structural access. I laugh, not toward vengeance but irony, because filing authorities don't validate adjacency claims without record number proof. Law enforcement may open emergencies. They do not open committee allegations. 2 officers arrived at my gate. The air felt cool. The scene felt inevitable. Officer Martinez. Sir, we got a call about denied community access. Me, holding folder. I own this structure privately. No adjacency clauses or easement rights recorded. Here's filing proof. Martinez flipped through the pages slowly, realizing assumption was heavier than procedure. Martinez, this is private property. Officer 2 nodding. Then HOA has no jurisdiction here. Karen watched from the sidewalk, arms crossed. The kind of body language that once believed posture could override statute. Karen from distance. They need to verify adjacency. Me. To officers only. Already verified a county. No clause exists. No filing attempted before trespass. Martinez sighing. We can't enforce HOA review without statutory instrument. No arrest. No escalation. No lien. Just paperwork being returned to its owner. Me. But pressure shifts shape just before it breaks. Karen issued more citations. $3,300 fine. Community ballot claims. Structural adjacency accusations. She even attempted to gather signatures from politically sympathetic neighbors. Try and create implied access to my garage by social consensus. But implied rights without record number are performance art. The fine died quietly when courts read procedure. That night, I spoke slowly to camera. I hadn't started publicly yet. Forms don't make law. Records do. I never expected the reversal to come quietly, but quiet is where the strongest strategies live. 2 weeks after the garage lock incident, I filed my first memorandum. Clean handwriting, no theatrics, at the county office in the real town frame of Golden, Colorado, U.S. The subdivision sat in the fictional coastal town of Silver Marina Falls, Colorado, U.S. The HOA that wanted dominion but had no statutory access was a newly incorporated Silver Marina Community Association. The plan wasn't emotional chess. It was statute-first filing warfare. Real property law in Colorado is methodical by nature. Procedure defines success. We began undoing assumption-based pressure by applying recognized legal mechanisms like quiet title preparation, ownership injunction plan, notarized verification, jurisdictional review channels, and evidence-based appeals. My attorney, Davis Graham and Stubbs LLP attorney Elena Brooks, took one look at my evidence stack and said the one line that mattered, "Elena, they assume territory. We prove ownership." We filed a temporary restraining order request for interference, citing zoning precedents, trespass without term, and private annex protection under county land jurisdiction. On day 3 of filing evidence prep, Elena initiated a civil injunction preparation framework. Courts consider injunction motions in silence, not persuasion. The secret weapon is burden of proof shift. Small wins came first. Then momentum. White heavy checkmark fine, appeal scheduled for dismissal. White heavy checkmark no lien recorded due to filing jurisdiction failure. White heavy checkmark title domain formally challenged. White heavy checkmark garage annex selected for evidence auditors, review board. White heavy checkmark security feed retrieved and secured as Exhibit A. White heavy checkmark town adjacency arguments voided the moment statute precedents arrived. These wins were procedural. But hope has a human scent too. Sensory beat. I remember Elena emailing PDFs at 2:14 a.m. Faint blue laptop glow reflecting off a title binder. The quiet keyboard clicks felt louder than Karen ever did. Minimal dialogue. Maximum strategic weight. Then came the county confrontation. I walked into the HOA President Karen's domain, the HOA office, and requested formal documentation. Karen, leaning back in chair. "More filings, Marcus?" Me, calm but measured. "I need the county recording reference number granting shared garage rights." Karen, "We are a legally incorporated HOA." Me, "You're incorporated. I'm asking about jurisdiction over my structure." 2 different codes. Karen stood, agitated the way people stand when evidence pins their assumption. She motioned her board members toward me. Board member 1, nervous. "Do we have a filing number for garage rights?" Karen, snapping, "We don't need one. It's in our bylaws." Board 1, "Not county recorded, though, right?" Karen, "It's adjacency infrastructure. We classify it." Elena, stepping into room mid-call, clear voice. "Classification isn't jurisdiction without county filings or contract covenants notarized and recorded." The room went silent. Not camera drama. Engineering drama. Karen's authority shrank where statutes grew. Quiet ones file motions. Loud ones file emotions. Emotions don't docket. Over the next week, we gathered more proof to weaponize a reversal. I verified the late independent land survey, done years earlier, at Colorado Land Surveyors Association. Their jurisdiction validation clarified boundaries that had nothing to do with shared infrastructure. Elena elevated strategy. I elevated extraction. She prepared me for the courtroom, as if courtroom speech were my native language. Elena, "We need a clean chain of custody for the trespass footage. Judges hate tampered timelines." Me, "Timeline exported. Hash verified. No edits. Lock pin recorded. Ownership incontrovertible." Elena gnawed. "Good. You may not need to speak much in court. Your evidence already narrates." The biggest lever in HOA warfare is proof burden inversion. Because trespass annex claims change battlegrounds from "did violation happen" to "did jurisdiction exist to enforce it prior to interference?" It didn't, which means the reversal is not loud. It is procedural inevitability. My attorney prepared a verification of deed and annex occlusion framework, including land markers, builder permits, surveillance logs, and notarized absence of jurisdiction pre-ballot demands, submitted to county recorder. That night, I filmed privately, practicing the tone I'd carry later. They tried velocity. I tried verification. The crescendo wasn't court. It was inevitability pivot. Without statutory instrument, they'd never have garage rights. Without covenant breach, they'd never have lien pathway. Without parcel overlap, they'd never intervene. Without notarization, they'd never coerce. Without coercion, authority dissolves. The courthouse hallways smelled of disinfectant and winter coats drying on radiators. That detail matters, because this story isn't about speeches. It's about corridors, counters, and stamps of authority. The hearing was set in motion at the Jefferson County Courthouse, inside the jurisdiction of the state of Colorado, ruled by statutory frameworks like quiet title action and injunction authority under Colorado, revised Statute 38-41-101. I arrived carrying a leather-bound exhibit case from Samsonite, not for luggage quality, but because it would later sit on a courtroom table in every photo of proceedings. 2 weeks earlier, we'd pre-filed evidence through county recording systems managed by Arapahoe County clerk and recorder. Today, it was being read by people who preferred law to posture. When I checked in, the docket screen glared softly, powered by the case management display of Odyssey File and Serve. My file name scrolled. Karen's name scrolled. The difference was, mine would survive scrutiny. Judge Robinson stepped in precisely at 10:02 a.m., robes quietly brushing with trim. The courtroom microphone system was by Shure MX412. That matters, too, because every calm sentence that followed amplified realism, not emotion. The hearing began with procedure, not empathy, which is proper. Judge Robinson. Mr. Hale, the court has reviewed the motion to challenge HOA-imposed annex access citations. You may begin. Me. Exhibit case submitted, Your Honor. Judge. Already received. Confirm authenticity before we proceed. Authenticity checks don't happen by naught alone. They happen by chain of custody. The bailiff handed the USB surveillance exhibit to the digital clerk. Archival and checksum validated using forensic timestamp, hashing verified by FTK Imager. No tampering. No splices. Video integrity confirmed. Then my attorney Elena entered. The presence filed legally through Colorado Bar Association registration. She sat beside quietly. Elena didn't need introduction. Her case record preceded her. Karen Whitlock's attorney tried first. He brought adjacency argument. No statute reference. Just assumption-based privileges echoed verbally. Karen's attorney. The garage is community adjacency infrastructure reviewed under HOA bylaws. Would allow structural classification enforcement. Judge cutting in. Classification is not jurisdiction unless recorded in county land use filings or tied to notarized covenant contracts. Is there such a document? Attorney, uneasy pause. No, Your Honor. Uneasy pauses are admissible only as tension, not proof. My turn now. I open the binder. Pages turn slow. Documentary slow. Each page a witness. Me. Deed of ownership private. Recorded 2019. Judge nod. Continue. Me. No easement of structural access ever recorded. Judge verified. Me. No shared annex clause in listing contract. Judge understood. Now the key exhibit. The one that shocks without raising voice. Me. Holding paper, camera tone calm. Garage entry occurred without request. Here is time-stamped trespass footage. Here is a lock override record. Here is notarized absence of community access authorization pre-entry. Karen's eyes flicked. Binder silence hummed. Witness declarations came next. Elena prepped short witnesses, but strong ones. Neighbor witness. I saw the vehicle entering. There was no emergency. She signaled entry herself. Judge noted. Then came forensics. Formal, not narrative. The video's metadata line was laser scanned on screen by the court's projection system serviced under document display by Epson Courtroom Projector Suite. Fictionalized product quad example suite. The plates were visible. Karen guiding was visible. HOA adjacency rules were invisible because they never existed here. The judge leaned forward slightly. Not anger, just curiosity and evident structure. Elena brought the mic drop line that reframed the case beautifully, but only once crisp short. Elena, they brought a precedent. We brought precedent. Judge ruled. Judge Robinson. All HOA citations alleging garage access or adjacency enforcement without recorded statutory instrument are hereby void. Court costs assigned to claimant. Me, half smile toward Karen this time. Keep your receipts. Karen tried a final move. Not legally, personally. She stood, crossed arms, addressed me, not court. Karen, you didn't need to do this. Me, calm but relief tight. You didn't need to park in a place you had no paper rights to. Karen blinked into implosion. Judge added one final procedural note for posterity. Because human reactions are ephemeral, orders are permanent. Judge, filings will reflect citation dismissal and annex boundary reaffirmation. Do not construe proximity to constitute shared ownership. I packed the binder slowly. No gloating. No extra verbs. Just closure. Reflection to camera later that night. Voice leveled. Legacy intact. Winter sun leaking through blinds. Vindication isn't a shout. It's a docket line that survives appeal. The reversal phase wasn't dramatic. The truth presentation was. Another reflection. A new one, not old, to close the act without repetition. When law speaks, even arrogance learns grammar. Final line for this chapter. Spoken to you here as if the camera was rolling from start. Paper doesn't lie. People do. The lake was untouched when I came back. Water doesn't gossip. That's why I like it. Before the trip, this was just a garage dispute. Now it was county record, court order, and neighborhood folklore told in half sentences at mailboxes. Not my style. I prefer complete files. The town sign, green and slightly sun-bleached, read Pinebrook Springs. A fictional but region-real community inspired by towns like Golden, Colorado, U.S. My home sits in a gated lakeside subdivision, but legally independent from the HOA authority that tried to annex my garage. All land use authority is enforced through county governance systems like the Jefferson County Public Records. I didn't go to court to change the neighborhood. I went to court to keep the hierarchy from changing me. The first morning back, I opened my mailbox and found nothing but utility bills and a seed catalog. Normalcy is the legal genre I actually invested in. This whole ordeal was a subplot I never authorized. I walked toward the garage next. The lock was intact. The metal cold. The kind of cold metal gets when it had power for 14 days without argument. I typed the manual override pin, the bolt clicked, and ownership returned to motion. Inside, the SUV was still there, tires slightly deflated, breath of confinement on the windows, a museum of entitlement I would never cure it twice. I set the bag down, leaned into frame, and talked to camera, hypothetical camera, documentary address, once precise. Some people leave footprints, others leave liability. I filed a tow request, legally compliant, through a private contractor service by Golden Towing and Recovery. This wasn't hostility. This was logistics. Post-judgment cleanup always is. The driver arrived 38 minutes later. A man named Earl, 59, smelling like winter diesel and peppermint gum. Earl, you want extracted intact or with story attached? Me, intact. The story is already filed elsewhere. Earl chuckles. Copy that. The vehicle was winched out, rubber dragging softly against concrete grooves I installed myself. The door's echo lingered less than a second. Sensory beat. Chains clinking. Hydraulic hiss. Late birds ignoring human conflicts. That calm contrast is why this chapter feels true. I met Elena that afternoon at a coffee shop near Clear Creek Park, Colorado, U.S. She had the calm assurance of someone who drinks cases instead of lattes. Elena, you vanished during motion prep. Good tactic. Me, not a tactic. A calibration. Judges rule better with distance. Elena, nodding, you carve your domain without collateral noise. Me, I carved nothing. The survey did. Elena sipped coffee, glanced toward the lake, then back at me. Elena, so you're done now? Me smiling slightly. No, I'm restored. Restoration is different from revenge. Revenge wants participation. Restoration just needs signatures validated lower than county recording permanence. I pulled another binder from my bag. This time it wasn't evidence. It was the architectural plan for my father's old workshop marker, a brass disc he once buried near water lines in 1998. That disc never mattered until the HOA tried to imply community adjacency. Then markers mattered again. I walked to the lakefront soil 2 days later. Early fog coiled around my boots. The ground was legally mine, emotionally his legacy. I brushed soil away, found the brass disc stamped by his old surveyor partner, now retired from Veteran Survey Corps. It read, M. Hale, Boundary Verified, 1998. I place a new reflection to camera right here, not repeating old wisdom. Fresh highlight, calm, singular. Proof isn't pride. It's inheritance. Because legacy doesn't need adjectives to feel heavier. Neighbors approached that weekend when I was reinstalling the workshop outline posts. Neighbor 2, Jeremy, retired Navy, 65 from the same era ships like the USS Lincoln. Marcus, HOA still staring at you sideways? Me, tightening screws on a post. Sideways stares don't notarize. But thanks for asking. Jeremy laughed, not mockingly, procedurally. Jeremy, damn right. Me, yeah. Jeremy, walking away. Paper never forgets, huh? I called back. Paper files permanently. Memory needs reminders. Law doesn't. He raised his hand. Walked into Lake Horizon without further legend narration. I didn't install posts faster than her paperwork. I just installed them correctly, verified by licensed recorder and engineer, posts anchored under county land compliance oversight of private bill free from it shared infrastructure obligations. Then I opened my laptop, updated the final memorandum folder titled Reaffirm Domain Restoration 2025, and uploaded court outcome summary into secure archive stored under local cluster, not public feed. If this were the camera, I'd look into it now exactly like this. Closure has a sound, too. It's the absence of appeals. Because the HOA never appealed. Not for lack of arrogance, but lack of route. Final outro, direct documentary tone, calm victory, no vengeance glaze. If you ever fight an HOA, fight boredom with filings, not theatrics. And remember, paper doesn't lie. People do. Clapperboard final engagement line. Have you ever faced a corrupt HOA? Tell me your story in the comments. And remember, keep your receipts. They called it a misunderstanding in public. In filings, it was interference. 2 different worlds. After the judgment, the HOA stopped addressing me directly, but they started addressing systems around me. Appeals, amendments, code complaints, none landed. But they left residue. Residue is actionable for narrative, not enforceable for jurisdiction. The next scene the camera would love was the county's evidence intake room. Not glamorous. Hard tile, long counter, wall clock that refused artistic drift. I carried my binder. Pages tagged post-trespass. No shared authority instruments attached. And requested archival certification of the dismissal order. Engineers don't bow. They check. The legal basis for this phase? Evidence custody. Chain of access auditing. The boring mechanics that make stories bulletproof. The clerk, 58, glasses slightly crooked from a morning full of liability denials, flipped through my motion folder with the caution of someone handling someone else's lawsuit. Clerk, purpose of intake, sir? Me, certification of citation voiding, annex interference history, and surveillance chain submission. Clerk, eyebrows raised, not HOA filing? Me, county filing. He nodded, screen logged the intake, printed acknowledgement, handed me copy, said nothing philosophical. Good. Philosophy doesn't certify. Sensory beat. Laser printer humming. Paper stack warm at the edges. The lake outside still pretending it never got involved. I stored footage under a data integrity verification hash. No edits. No montage. Just sequence frames preserved locally as forensic evidence, tagged under county jurisdiction rather than committee claimed adjacency. Then I entered the evidence inventory into county annex memory storage maintained internally for case provenance. The folder wasn't about emotion anymore. It was about custody. Elena met me later, again, on camera hypothetically implied by narrative tilt. But this was out of court and into process reflection, not melodrama. Elena, they haven't appealed? Me, no filing basis, no appeal pathway, no record reference. Elena, half smile, so we archive now? Me, we certify then archive. Elena, you're thorough. Me, I'm required to be. I was challenged by assumption, not legality. So I respond in verification domains. The archive needed structure too, but different structure. Evidence isn't a thesis. It's a timeline you don't apologize for. Next beat. Neighbors again at the lake edge when I was reinstalling Father's workshop mark posts. This time they weren't asking about citations. They were asking about aftermath plausibility. Jeremy, they still sending violation slips? Me, no statutory shape now. Just procedural background noise. County recorded the dismissal. If slips fly again, they fly as confetti, not claims. Jeremy, laughing, harsh. Me, accurate. Jeremy doesn't notarize either. But Jeremy narrates morale well. The night IVA, forensic timestamps installed at 2:48 a.m. local time for equipment calibration check again. I didn't need generator noise. I had birds ignoring neighbors ignoring HOA now. I reviewed my own file structure. Confirmed upload integrity. Dismissal code verified by county. No further branch modifications allowed to the story arc, because arc closes when judges, county, and evidence chain all agree. Then final reflection, new line, not old, camera tone calm. Vindication isn't a destination. It's a checksum you don't debate. No camera sweeping back now. Just steady closure. The evidence room would close with this kind of quiet. Simple reality. Citations voided, white heavy checkmark. No liens filed, white heavy checkmark. HOA adjacency argument recognized as non-jurisdictional, white heavy checkmark. Surveillance integrity unchallenged, white heavy checkmark. And one final remark I recorded in my engineering log later. Not for drama, but because narrative has to end with documentary quote frameworks that don't repeat vocabulary from earlier chapters. Procedure outlives panic. Archive outlives volume.